It's occurred to me recently that I'm going to pass this wisdom on is that, I mean, I've always done this self-consciously. Well, a little bit self-consciously, but what I mean to say is subconsciously. I try to match the tone of the music I'm listening to the book that I'm reading. It's not like I pick music that is like the soundtrack to that book. You know, you don't want to be listening to Beyonce while you're reading Night by Ellie Weasel or whatever his name is. Like, it just doesn't match. It doesn't. I was reading the part in Game of Thrones with the Red Wedding, and I was like, halfway through the big scene, and all of a sudden the Tenerife Sea song comes on, and I kind of paused, and I was like, no, this is wrong. So I had to change that. So, word of advice, make sure that the music that you're listening to actually matches the tone of the book that you're reading, because otherwise you're just very confused. It's like too much stimulus happening, it just doesn't work. So the Red Wedding. I was not shocked by the shocking event. And I don't know if it's because like I waited much longer to read this book than everyone else did. It's a clip from the TV show. Lord Walder looks like Willie Nelson, and that was distracting for me because I didn't understand why Willie Nelson would be on Game of Thrones. Usually he's, out being arrested. It's what Willie does. He doesn't rule over the twins. I wasn't as shocked. And I think it might be because like I was prepped for something to happen that was like really big in this book, and so like I have kind of been desensitized by being overly sensitive, waiting for something to happen. And I mean, obviously, that takes away some of the charge, like, I mean, reading things, Harry Potter, and not knowing someone's gonna die at the end. Like, everyone hit the fourth book and they were like, what? Because someone died. And, like, that was the first death. Everyone kind of lost their minds a little bit. By the time the seventh book happened, we were all so, I mean, I think everyone was catatonic, shell-shocked after that. And I don't mean to say that disrespectfully. Like, I really think everyone finished that book and they just kind of were like, for a while. And then it got me thinking about, on YouTube, if you type in that, like, Game of Thrones Red Wedding, like, a lot of what pops up is reactions to people watching that show. You just have the camera on people watching the show, and they're all like, or, like, people get up and they're like, no, 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 and, like, freak out. And I just think it's so funny because for me, I don't watch TV that often. And when I do, I'm kind of, like, doing other stuff because I have a really hard time just sitting and watching something. Filming these takes a lot of effort. Funny is just like looking at our society, it's so much more acceptable to the point where it will go viral on the internet of people like losing their shit over stuff happening on TV. But if you're sitting quietly and you're reading a book and something huge happens and you just start like losing your mind, everyone's like, I mean, calm down. It's just a book. Well, okay, honey, it is just a book. But let me tell you something. The shit that's happening in this book, it's the material that spawns the TV show. So if you're reading the book and you're freaking out, like, it's also okay. Not that I freaked out while I was reading this book, but it has been known to happen. And I just sit there, and I'm freaking out about the book. But I know it's not socially acceptable for, like, because they're like, okay, Ari's doing quiet reading time. She'll be quiet, we can do whatever, and she won't startle us. But I'll sit there, I'll be reading my book, da-da-da, and then something will happen, and I'll go, and have to, like, it pains me to pull it all in. And then I have all this trapped up energy of, like, I don't know what the fuck just happened, but something big happened, and I have to just, no one will understand but me, because no one will take the time to read it. Like, you can show someone a clip of something, but God forbid you make them read a page and a half. If you ever, anyone who knows me, if you ever find me, like, wandering the streets, it's probably because I found something in a book that was very unsettling or very startling or something. And I'm having a hard time processing it because I can't just blow up like everyone else does. So my mom will find me, like, puttering around kind of anxiously, and she's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing. Because, like, I can't be like, well, starting on page 47 and going to page 682, this all happened, and oh my god. They're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, you're never going to understand. And this is the plight of a book kid. You'll never understand. Because you won't take the time to read it for me. I have to internalize it and then slowly, slowly, slowly get ulcers. So, let's work on that. With people sitting quietly, so quietly that you forget that they're there while they're reading a book, and then something happens, be it big, be it small, be it medium-ish sized, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they just, and you're like, ah! And you're like, whoa, what just happened? And they're just like, just hold me. You have to hold them. And you have to listen to them talk about what just happened in that book. It has to. You have to do it. If you don't, you're a bad person.